today's podcast, I'm going to recap the 4-0 loss by the U.S. against Morocco in the quarterfinals of Olympic soccer, U23 soccer. It was probably a bit unlucky for the Americans to fall by that many goals, but Morocco did have its way with the U.S., did pick apart the back line, did make a lot of passes that the U.S. just kind of were out of position for, couldn't handle their movement off the ball, and ultimately a dominant win by Morocco. So a lot to unpack in this game. When you look at what happened, it should be noted that Morocco is on an upswing right now in terms of international soccer. The 2022 World Cup in Dubai, the full national squad, I should note, they got fourth at the World Cup in Qatar, I should say. And it's a North African side rising to a crescendo right now. They're going to be a joint host for the 2030 World Cup right around the corner, coming up here in about 8 years. And so a lot to look. 6 years, even sooner. A lot to kind of look at with Morocco. They're playing really well. They got the opening win over Argentina in this Olympic Games, but wasn't that convincing. Today, though, they've showed the strides they've made in this tournament. This game was played at Parc des Princes in Paris, and the U.S. was just really behind the eight ball from the jump and suffered a 4-0 loss. Sofiane Rohame got the opening goal from the spot. Nathan Harrell had a kind of a clumsy or kind of a reckless challenge with a high boot. Looked like it connected with a player, and then there was another Morocco player in the vicinity, and a couple bodies flew, and Morocco got the benefit of the doubt. They got the penalty, and they scored there in the first half. And then you saw the U.S. didn't seem like there was enough urgency after that goal when they were down 1-0. Specifically, deep into stoppage time in that first half. They looked like they were laboring, maybe a bit tired. I get it. I know they've been playing these games about every 3 days. In the World Cup, typically you're going to get about 5 days rest. It's hot. They're playing these games during the day. Very, very giant parks. But they were laboring and they weren't necessarily connecting and linking up the way they needed to in the midfield with the attacking third, the strikers, and the outside backs maybe weren't getting enough into the action as they could have at that point. And then the second half hit, and Rohimi didn't score again. He leads the tournament with 5 goals, but you had the Americans giving up 3 goals in the second half. In the 63rd minute, Morocco was running at the Americans and just kind of starting to unleash some different patterns and really starting to get the flow of the game and starting to attack and put the U.S. under pressure, especially even when they didn't have the ball. They had a high press. And they had a centering pass and finish at the near post that really kind of broke the camel's back with a 2-0 lead in the 63rd minute. Didn't feel like the Americans were going to be coming back from that, rallying back from that. And as I said, didn't feel like the U.S. had a ton of urgency, had a ton of kind of bite to kind of get back in the game. But as you could see in that second half, it really didn't matter because they let the the floodgates were opened, and they gave up a trio of goals ultimately. So it didn't matter that they didn't necessarily get that equalizer in the bag. And I think a lot of that falls, speaking of the players' performance, I think a lot of that falls on the shoulders of Tanner Tessman. The skipper, the captain who plays club ball in Italy, their top flight in Serie A. I thought he was a subpar performance. I really thought he was almost a no-show there in the middle of the park. Didn't get the ball moving around a lot. I think he's part of the reason why you could point towards the Americans not having more chances on goal and more command of the game, more flow to the game, and he had a few bad giveaways as well. So we'll see. Maybe it's just a bad outing from him. Um, we'll see how he kind of factors into the U.S. full men's side moving forward. But he was the captain here, and he plays, as I said, in Italy. Gianluca Busio was out with a non-contact injury he got in the second match day against New Zealand. Just to start kind of a list of players I think I view played well and have the potential to play for the full U.S. national team at the World Cup. It's what I view based off what I've seen in the Olympics. It's solely what I'm going off of. I'm not listing all the players. I'm just giving you my take and what I saw. I think he'll be in the U.S. pool. And then I think he'll continue to get considerable playing time there in Venezia, which is Venice, in the Serie A. He's almost played 100 matches for them, and he's a player to watch moving forward. Players with a chance at the World Cup based, again, on what I saw, I think Patrick Schulte in goal was pretty commanding, pretty much a player who seemed to have really good composure, good footwork there in the net. And it's a weak goalkeeper pool, so maybe he sneaks into there and maybe even challenges for a starting job down the road here in the next year or two. That John Tolkien, the left back for the New York Red Bulls, I thought he played really well. I thought he pushed up a lot. I thought he was very active. I thought he won a lot of his one-on-one challenge. I love his low center of gravity. Um, I think he's a player that I'm gonna specifically be tracking and one that could be doing a lot of damage for the U.S. And then another player who's a must see on this under 23 team, Kevin Paredes. Man, that guy just a lot of confidence, gets on the ball, tight touches, great first touch. Today he had a flying volley on this looping ball to the back post that ricocheted off a defender. But man, just him trying that when them down 1-0, love it. I think he's gonna be someone who breaks into the mold for the U.S. And then you look at these final two players; they were overage players for the U.S. Walker Zimmerman specifically had a great time tackle with Morocco on the break, one-on-one. Basically, would have had a breakaway if he didn't make this tackle, but got down and got the ball, and I think he showed well in this tournament. I think he'll be in the mix for center back spot at the World Cup, but to push for that spot, I think there are, if there's a thin depth at that position from injury and other things, he'll be someone in the mix. George Mihailovic, I think he stays on the radar, but I think he did fade a bit today. I think he's a quality set piece taker, but to see him get into the U.S. national team mix, he's gonna have to get a little bit more confident. And I think he's just gonna have to get more experience. We're gonna have to see where he's at with his development. He's 25, but a solid Olympic showing. He's gonna be on the radar.